Well, all, we are continuing the dizzying tale of Wuthering Heights, where if you do go see the movie, you do think it is just about Catherine Earnshaw, who marries Edgar Linton, but really truly does love Heathcliff. But in reality, the book is much more complex and different, and they're just different. And we are on volume 2 of chapter 11 of volume 2, where we are here with Catherine and Edgar's child, Catherine Linton, Heathcliff and Isabella Linton's child, named Linton Heathcliff, and Hindley Earnshaw and Frances Earnshaw's child named Hareton, who is and almost everybody is dead. Original Catherine is dead. Isabella's dead. Hindley and Frances are dead. So we are just left with Catherine, who is with her father Edgar at Thrushcross Grange, and Linton and Hareton both live with Heathcliff at Wuthering Heights. And Catherine has been sneaking off to see her cousins. She's very prejudiced against Hareton because he's whatever, a simpleton or whatever. And she likes Linton, even though he seems like the kid from Secret Garden who was sick all the time and was kind of a jerk to everybody before he actually got outside to get some sunshine. Like, I think all these kids just need to, like, go out and get some sunshine. But it truly, like, Secret Garden is like, the kid just needed to get out into some sunshine. They told him that he couldn't go outside because of spores and, like, mold or whatever. So they barred up the windows in his room. And then he got out into the sunshine and he was like, oh my God, I feel so much better. The sun is a glorious thing. And it is cloudy today. The irony. So Catherine has just confessed to Nellie that she has been sneaking off every night while Nellie and her father have been sick. And Nellie, I'm certain, is afraid that everybody's going to die because everybody's been dying. And Nellie was like, yeah, I promise not to tell your dad. And then immediately went and told her dad. And who also was like, you're forbidden to do that ever again. Chapter 11. These things happened last winter, sir, said Mrs. Dean, hardly more than a year ago. Last winter I did not think, and at another 12 months' end, I should be amusing a stranger to the family with relating them. Yet who knows how long you'll be a stranger? You're too young to rest always contented, living by yourself. And I some way fancy no one could see Catherine Linton and not love her. You smile, but why do you look so lively and interested when I talk about her? And why have you asked me to hang her picture over your fireplace? And why— Stop, my good friend, I cried. In the very beginning, we hung out with Mr. Lockwood, who is now a tenant at Thrushcross Grange. Stop, my good friend, I cried. Mr. Lockwood. It may be very, very possible that I should love her, but would she love me? I doubt it too much to venture my tranquillity by running into temptation, and then my home is not here. If I'm of the busy world, and to its arms I must return. Go on. Was Catherine obedient to her father's commands? She was, continued the housekeeper. Catherine Linton, okay. She was, continued the housekeeper. Her affection for him was still the chief sentiment in her heart, and he spoke without anger. He spoke in the deep tenderness of one about to leave his treasure amid perils and foes, where his remembered words would be the only aid that he could bequeath to guide her. He said to me a few days afterwards, I wish my nephew would write, Ellen, or call. Tell me sincerely what you think of him. Is he changed for the better, or is there a prospect of improvement as he grows a man? He is very delicate, sir, I replied, and scarcely likely to reach manhood, but this I can say, he does not resemble his father, and if Miss Catherine had the misfortune to marry him, he would not be beyond her control, unless she were extremely foolishly indulgent. However, master, you'll have plenty of time to get acquainted with him, and see whether he would suit her. It wants 4 years and more to his being of age. Edgar sighed, and walking to the window, looked out towards Gimmerton Kirk. But in the beginning, it sounded like Heathcliff was telling Mr. Lockwood that Catherine Linton was married to Heathcliff's son, who had died. So, just keeping that in mind. It was a misty afternoon, but February's sun shone dimly, and we could just distinguish the 2 fir trees in the yard and the sparely scattered gravestones. I've prayed often, he half soliloquized, for the approach of what is coming, and now I begin to shrink and fear it. I thought the memory of the hour I came down that glen at a bridegroom would be less sweet than the anticipation that I was soon, in a few months or possibly weeks, to be carried up and laid in its lonely hollow. Ellen, I've been very happy with my little Cathy. Through winter nights and summer days she was a living hope at my side, but I've been as happy musing by myself among those stones under that old church, lying through the long June evenings on the green mound of a mother's grave, and wishing, yearning for the time when I might lie beneath it. What can I do for Cathy? How must I quit her? I'd not care one moment for Linton being Heathcliff's son, nor for his taking her from me, if he could console her for my loss. I'd not care that Heathcliff gained his ends and triumphed in robbing me of my last blessing. But should Linton be unworthy, only a feeble tool to his father, I cannot abandon her to him. And hard though it be to crush her buoyant spirit, I must persevere in making her sad while I live, and leaving her solitary when I die. Darling, I'd rather resign her to God and lay her in the earth before me. Resign her to God as it is, sir, I answered, and if we should lose you, which may he forbid, under his providence I'll stand, her friend and counsellor to the last. Miss Catherine is a good girl. I don't fear that she will go wilfully wrong, and people who do their duty are always finely rewarded. Spring advanced, yet my master gathered no real strength, though he resumed his walks on the ground with his daughter. To her inexperienced notions, this itself was a sign of convalescence, and then his cheek was often flushed and his eyes were bright, and she felt sure of his recovering. On her 17th birthday, he did not visit the churchyard. It was raining, and I observed, "You'll surely not go out tonight, sir?" He answered, "No, I'll defer it this year a little longer." He wrote again to Linton, expressing his great desire to see him, and had the invalid been presentable, I've no doubt his father would have permitted him to come. As it was, being instructed, he returned an answer, intimating that Mr. Heathcliff objected to his calling at the Grange, but his uncle's kind remembrance delighted him, and he hoped to meet him sometimes in his rambles, and personally to petition that his cousin and he might not remain long so utterly divided. That part of his letter was simple, and probably his own. Heathcliff knew he could plead eloquently for Catherine's company. Then, "I do not ask," he said, "that she may visit here, but I am never to see her because my father forbids me to go to her home, and you forbid her to come to mine. Do, now and then, ride with her towards the heights, and let us exchange a few words in your presence. We have done nothing to deserve the separation, and you are not angry with me. You have no reason to dislike me. You allow yourself, dear uncle. Send me a kind note tomorrow, and leave to join you anywhere you please, except at Thrushcross Grange. I believe an interview would convince you that my father's character is not mine. He affirms I am more your nephew than his son, and though I have faults which render me unworthy of Catherine, she has excused them, and for her sake you should also. You inquire after my health. It is better. But while I remain cut off from all hope and doomed to solitude, all the society of those who never did, and never will like me, how can I be cheerful and well?" Edgar, though he felt for the boy, could not consent to grant his request, because he could not accompany Catherine. He said in summer perhaps they might meet. Meantime, he wished him to continue writing at intervals, and engaged to give him what advice and comfort he was able by letter, being well aware of his hard position in his family. Linton complied, and had he been unrestrained, would probably have spoiled all by filling his epistles with complaints and lamentations. But his father kept a sharp watch over him, and of course insisted on every line that my master sent being shown. So instead of penning his peculiar personal sufferings and distresses, the themes constantly uppermost in his thoughts, he harped on the cruel obligation of being held asunder from his friend in love, and gently intimated that Mr. Linton must allow an interview soon, or he should fear he was purposely deceiving him with empty promises. Catherine was a powerful ally at home, and between them they at length persuaded my master to acquiesce in their having a ride or a walk together about once a week under my guardianship and on the moors nearest the Grange. For June found him still declining, and though he had set aside yearly a portion of his income for my young lady's fortune, he had a natural desire that she might retain or at least return in a short time to the house of her ancestors, and he considered her only prospect of doing that was by a union with his heir. He had no idea that the latter was failing almost as fast as himself, nor had anyone, I believe. No doctor visited the Heights, and no one saw Master Heathcliff to make report of his condition among us. I, for my part, began to fancy my forebodings were false, and that he must be actually rallying, when he mentioned riding and walking on the moors, and seemed so earnest in pursuing his object. I could not picture a father treating a dying child as tyrannically and wickedly as I afterwards learned Heathcliff had treated him. To compel this apparent eagerness, his efforts redoubling, the more imminently his very avaricious and unfeeling plans were threatened with defeat by death. That was that chapter, so we'll continue on to chapter 12. Why not? Let's see how long it is first. Oh, yes, chapter 12. Summer was already past its prime when Edgar reluctantly yielded his assent to their entreaties, and Catherine and I set out on our first ride to join her cousin. It was a close, sultry day, devoid of sunshine, but with a sky too dappled and hazy to threaten rain, and our place of meeting had been fixed at the guide stone by the crossroads. On arriving there, however, a little herd boy dispatched as a messenger told us that Master Linton were just at this side Heights, and he'd be much obliged to us to gain on a bit further. Then Master Linton has forgot the first injunction of his uncle, I observed. He bid us keep on the Grange land, and here we are, off at once. Well, we'll turn our horses' heads round when we reach him, answered my companion. Our excursion shall lie towards home. But when we reached him, and that was scarcely a quarter of a mile from his own door, we found he had no horse, and we were forced to dismount and leave ours to graze. He lay on the heath, awaiting our approach, and did not rise till we came within a few yards. Then he walked so feebly and looked so pale that I immediately exclaimed, "Why, Master Heathcliff, you're not fit for an enjoyable ramble this morning. How ill you do look!" Catherine surveyed him with grief and astonishment, and changed the ejaculation of joy on her lips to one of alarm, and the congratulation on their long-postponed meeting to an anxious inquiry whether he were worse than usual. "No, better, he panted, trembling and retaining her hand, as if he needed its support, while his large blue eyes wandered timidly over her, the hollowness round them transforming to haggard wildness the languid expression they once possessed. "But you have been worse," persisted his cousin, "worse than when I saw you last. You are thinner and—" "I'm tired," he interrupted hurriedly. "It is too hot for walking. Let us rest here, and in the morning I often feel sick. Papa says I grow so fast." Badly satisfied, Cathy sat down, and he reclined beside her. "This is something like your paradise," said she, making an effort at cheerfulness. "You recollect the 2 days we agreed to spend in the place and way each thought pleasantest. This is nearly yours, only there are clouds, but then they are so soft and mellow it's nicer than sunshine. Next week, if you can, we'll ride down the Grange and Grange Park and try mine." Linton did not appear to remember what she talked of, and he had evidently great difficulty in sustaining any kind of conversation. His lack of interest in the subjects she started, and his equal incapacity to contribute to her entertainment, were so obvious that she could not conceal her disappointment, and indefinite alteration had come over his whole person and manner. The pettishness that might be caressed into fondness had yielded to a listless apathy. There was less of the peevish temper of a child which frets and teases on purpose to be soothed, and more of the self-absorbed moroseness of a confirmed invalid, repelling consolation, and ready to regard the good-humoured mirth of others as an insult. Catherine perceived, as well as I did, that he held it rather a punishment than a gratification to endure our company, and she made no scruple of proposing presently to depart. That proposal unexpectedly roused Linton from his lethargy, and threw him into a strange state of agitation. He glanced fearfully towards the heights, begging she would remain another half-hour at least. "But I think," said Cathy, "you'd be more comfortable at home than sitting here, and I cannot amuse you today, I see, by my tales and songs and chatter. You have grown wiser than I in these 6 months. You have little taste for my diversions now, or else if I could amuse you, I'd willingly stay." "Stay to rest yourself," he replied, "and Catherine, don't think or say that I'm very unwell. It is the heavy weather and heat that make me dull, and I walked about before you came a great deal for me. Tell uncle I'm in tolerable health, will you?" "I'll tell him that you say so, Linton. I couldn't affirm that you are," observed my young lady, wondering at his pertinacious assertions of what was evidently an untruth. "And be here again next Thursday," he continued, shunning her puzzled gaze, "and give him my thanks for permitting you to come." "My best thanks, Catherine. And if you did meet my father, and he asked you about me, don't lead him to suppose that I've been extremely silent and stupid. Don't look sad and downcast, as you are doing. He'll be angry." "You care nothing for his anger," exclaimed Cathy, imagining she would be its object. "But I do," said her cousin, shuddering. "Don't provoke him against me, Catherine, for he is very hard." "Is he severe with you, Master Heathcliff?" I inquired. "Has he grown weary of indulgence and passed from passive to active hatred?" Linton looked at me, but did not answer, and after keeping his seat by his side another 10 minutes, during which his head fell drowsily on his breast, and he uttered nothing except suppressed moans of exhaustion or pain, Cathy began to seek solace in looking for bilberries, and sharing the produce of his researches with me. She did not offer them to him, for she saw further notice would only weary and annoy. "It is half an hour now, Ellen. Is it half-hour now, Ellen?" she whispered in my ear at last. "I can't tell why we should stay. He's asleep, and Papa will be wanting us back." "Well, we must not leave him asleep," I answered. "Wait till he wakes and be patient. You were mighty eager to set off, but your longing to see poor Linton has soon evaporated." "Why did he wish to see me?" returned Catherine. "In his crossest humours formerly, I liked him better than I do in his present curious mood. It's just as if it were a task he was compelled to perform, this interview, for fear his father should scold him. But I'm hardly going to come to give Mr. Heathcliff pleasure, whatever reason he may have for ordering Linton to undergo this penance. And though I'm glad he's better in health, I'm sorry he's so much less pleasant and so much less affectionate to me." "You think he is better in health, then?" I said. "Yes," she answered, "because he always made such a great deal of his sufferings, you know. He is not tolerably well, as he told me to tell Papa, but he's better, very likely." "There you differ with me, Miss Cathy," I remarked. "I should conjecture him to be far worse." Linton here started from his slumber in bewildered terror, and asked if anyone had called his name. "No," said Catherine, "unless in dreams. I cannot conceive how you manage to doze out of doors in the morning." "I thought I heard my father," he gasped, glancing up to the frowning nab above us. "You are sure nobody spoke?" "Quite sure," replied his cousin. "Only Ellen and I were disputing concerning your health." "Are you truly stronger, Linton, than when we separated in winter? If you be, I'm certain one thing is not stronger, your regard for me. Speak, are you?" The tears gushed from Linton's eyes as he answered, "Yes, yes, I am." And still under the spell of the imaginary voice, his gaze wandered up and down to detect its owner. Cathy rose. "For today we must part," she said, "and I won't conceal that I've been sadly disappointed in our meeting, though I'll mention it to nobody but you. Not that I stand in awe of Mr. Heathcliff." "Hush," murmured Linton. "For God's sake, hush. He's coming." And he clung to Catherine's arm, striving to detain her. But at that announcement she hastily disengaged herself and whistled to Minnie, who obeyed her like a dog. "I'll be in next Thursday," she cried, springing to the saddle. "Goodbye. Quick, Ellen." And so we left him, scarcely conscious of our departure, so absorbed was he in anticipating his father's approach. "What's Heathcliff been doing?" Before we reached home, Catherine's displeasure softened into a perplexed sensation of pity and regret, largely blended with vague, uneasy doubts about Linton's actual circumstances, physically and socially, in which I partook, though I counselled her not to say much, for a second journey would make us better judges. My master requested an account of our ongoings. His nephew's offering of thanks was duly received, Miss Catherine gently touching on the rest. I also threw little light on his inquiries, for I hardly knew what to hide and what to reveal. Whoa, this is really intense. What has Heathcliff been doing to Linton Heathcliff? I don't understand. It's so sad. Join me next time for Chapter 13 of Wuthering Heights. Happy reading to you all, and ta-ta!